I was born in a place called Gujar Khan in Pakistan in 1935. Before I came to this country, I used to be a school teacher in Gujar Khan in Pakistan. What happened was that in 1964 they needed Asian teachers a lot because of the fact that a lot of children who were either not schooled at all in India or Pakistan, or they didn't have any English, and the parents didn't have any English. So they needed people who were who could have been helpful because we were bilingual. So they, as soon as we just telephoned them or as soon as we contacted them, the immigration authorities at once gave us the visa to come to this country. And hundreds of teachers came in around that time to Britain, and they were all given jobs, but unfortunately they soon realized that the teachers from India and Pakistan did not have the same capabilities, especially in spoken English, as compared to the other teachers in Britain. So then they decided to give them some sort of training to enable them to cope with not only those children who came from India or Pakistan, but also with other children who were either British or Afro-Caribbeans. So I was one of those people who came in 1964. I carried on working as a teacher for about 15 years. But all the time, ever since I came to this country, I realized that the immigrants, fellow immigrants, needed help in various matters to settle in this country. That made me set up, along with my other colleagues, set up an organization, a voluntary organization in Nottingham. And we started this work in 1964. We helped people in the areas of, by way of advice, in the areas of housing mainly, jobs, education, training, education for the children, family problems, bringing families here, finding houses to accommodate them, etc., etc. We were always helpful and we wanted to help them, and it was quite voluntary. It was not even funded by any statutory or local authority body. We worked voluntarily and independently. We provided our own, we contributed money, and we provided our own sort of stationery and pens and pencils and everything to help people. I carried on like that in Nottingham until 1973. When I came to Wolverhampton because I found a job here at Deansfield High School in Wolverhampton.
So was that your first connection with Wolverhampton then in 1970?
Yeah, that's right.
Did you have any family here or any other connection?
But you see, when I came here first, it was because of the job. But then of course we have a lot of relatives in Birmingham, and we have some relatives in Wolverhampton. And of course, we made friends afterwards. So we were, in a sense, not very strangers in this town in Wolverhampton.
Can I clarify, who's we? Is that you and your parents, or you and your...
I, myself and my family.
Right. So what does your family consist of?
I am married and I've got 4 children. 3 boys and 1 girl. One boy is working here, one boy is slightly ill, and the other boy is doing PhD at Bangor University in North Wales. My daughter is a trained teacher, and she's qualified as a teacher. Will you ask me a question?
Yeah. So you're saying you first came to Wolverhampton in 1973 through work?
That's right.
And you had quite a bit of family and relatives that you knew of in Birmingham, a few in Wolverhampton, so you had some contacts.
That's right.
Can you describe what life was like in the 70s to me, please?
The life in 70s was not as good as it is now, because earlier on I said that even in 60s there was no funding and we were not aware of any funding. So all that we did was voluntary work. And similarly, even in the early 70s when we came here, there was no support for voluntary organizations. But because I am a sort of committee's man, I stood for council elections in the last election, and I lost for a few votes only. I've always been a sort of man who is outgoing, trying to help people wherever I can, in whatever capacity I can. So when I came here, what I did was, I at once sort of looked around as to what organizations were working here. But there were few at that time, but wherever they were, I started going there. But at the same time, I at once set up an organization myself, along with a few colleagues, and we called it United Muslim Welfare Association. Although the name was United Muslim, but what happened was, it was not a Muslim organization, it was an Asian organization. And it was in fact not even an Asian, we extended as far as Afro-Caribbean people, and we did not mind even white people were coming to our place. But so we, a few colleagues joined me and we set up United Muslim Welfare Association. But the problem that we faced afterwards was this, that it was misunderstood. And we only got Muslim people here, not only, of course, a lot of other people came, but not as much as we would have expected. So what happened was, people misunderstood that it was for the Muslims. So what we did was, at that time we also helped children in their playgroups and in their summer holiday schemes and things like that. So what happened was, we called it, we set up another organization called M and Y Asian Association. M stands for minor and Y stands for young. So we called it Minor and Young Asian Association. And then we found that the name was lengthy. So for short, we called it M and Y Asian Association. And what happened was that for about 8 or 10 years, until 1983, we just ran it, and we had an accommodation here called 39 Cardiff Street in Wolverhampton. And we got this place free of rent, not from the council, but from the well-wisher who owned it. So what happened was that we started work there, and we carried on with that. I think on average we saw something like 2,000 people in a year, and we helped those people in the fields of benefits, in the field of housing, in the field of education, in the field of healthy living, in the field of work training, and encouraging them to go to work, and encouraging them to go to interviews, and escorted them at the job centers and translated for them. And everything was done not with the help of one penny. All that was done was that we, a few people, about 20 to 30 people, we got together and we collected monies together, and we ran our center. The center was rent-free. But then luckily in 1986, we got support from some funders who were trusts. The main funder was Opportunities on Volunteering. That was the main funder. With the help of that funding, we employed 2-3 people for work, and then the life was easy. And I expected that sort of life as well. So immediately afterwards, we got funding for European Social Fund. And then I myself was appointed as the coordinator of that European Social Funding Company, and we established it at 210 Lee Road, which is across there.
Right.
And we had the support of Section 11 funding and other funding from other areas, and we were getting money from European Social Fund. So we trained unemployed Asian women in computing. And we found that the results were very good. The students who we trained got the jobs very easily. A lot of them went for further education in computing. Some went into the university and they got their degrees, and now they are following postgraduate courses. So my feeling is that that way we helped them in getting jobs a lot. At the same time, we also had activities which we continued, and that was finding jobs and training for the people who we could not accommodate here, but we knew where they should go and it would be beneficial to them. So we gave them advice and counseling and sort of help and insisting that they find jobs. And but at the same time, we have them with DSS benefits. So that was done to show them that yes, there was benefits available, but still the work is very important and more important than benefits, because it's not only money, it's also social life, it's also somewhere to go, somewhere to see people and things like that. So
the name of this organisation, 210 Lee Road, if it still exists.
It does exist, but what happened was in 1996 we had no funding left because of the fact that there was no match funding for European Social Fund. So what happened was then we were again and I was getting old as well. So the thing is that then again we had to close that office, but the association is still working and it's here.
Right.
So the thing is that we still help people, and we are applying for funding now and hoping that we shall get some funding very soon. And although I shall retire and I may not work there anymore, but I shall be in some sort of executive position and carry it on like that.
Can we talk a bit about your childhood maybe, and what life was like in the town that you were born in?
Well, the life was, to be honest to you, not as good when I was a child as it should have been. The reason being that although we had a very nice government in the form of British government in India, Pakistan was not made then. So it was a good government, but at the same time the position was that they had so many colonies in the world that they didn't have people, they didn't have manpower to cope with their problems, with their difficulties, with their financial side, with their agricultural side, with their industrial side. They could not cope with it, although they claimed they could, but they had no power. The other thing was that soon, when I was a very young child, they got involved into this Second World War. So the thing was that it was not only controlling people in normal circumstances, it was controlling people in very difficult circumstances, because the war was worldwide and they could not even produce captains of their own, what to say of soldiers. Any young man here who was 16 or 17, they made him first of all a captain in the army and sent them to India, sent them to all sorts of places in the world. So it was for the Indians, for the Asians, the life was very difficult because there was not many jobs, not many. So what happened was, the other problem was that a lot of young men from India had to go to the war. I was younger, otherwise I would have gone to the war as well. And the result was that they did a very funny thing. What they did was, as soon as you are trained for 6 weeks, you were sent in the front, in the war front. And then what happened was, they kept paying your money, which was very petty, about 15 rupees a month. That is call it 50 pence a month. That was what they were paying at that time. Well, of course, it was the things were not as expensive, but still 15 rupees was nothing. And they kept paying to the people who that man asked to pay. So they kept paying, and maybe the man was dead. Mm-hmm. There was no information, no letters, no nothing. So eventually, when it was 1945, people realized that their relatives and the young men who had gone to the war were dead. But they kept paying right until that time. But having gone to my side, so the life was, if the life was financially not good for other people, it was true in my case, in my parents' case. But luckily, I was born in a town. Gujar Khan is a town, and there was a secondary school. So I went for secondary up to secondary education in my own town, and then I studied in a place called Rawalpindi for my BA. and then I did Bachelor of Education there and Certificate of Education from Britain. But I was always interested in teaching. And that was why I set up training here, and I was always interested in meeting people. And it was true in 1940s. And the college that I went to was a mission college. It was a Christian college, and my other fellow Muslim students did not go to the Bible classes, but I did. I did not change my religion, though I was still Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
But I helped them in finding money to run the college as much as I could. I collected money from my relatives, from my friends, and gave them into the funding, and that helped towards the cost of the colleges.
What were your family's feelings on you attending a Christian college?
My family did not know that I was attending at their Bible meetings, but at the same time, I did not at all become a Christian.
Sure.
I never went there with the intention that I should become a Christian. I went out of curiosity to find more about the religion of other people. You see, the awareness that you have, more awareness, that has been my key point in my life. The more awareness you have, the better you understand the life, and you can adjust your life accordingly. So I mean, right from my youth, I have been interested in people of all religions, all cultures, and all different customs and habits and things like that.
Were you brought up quite religiously? I mean, was religion active in your family life growing up?
The religion was very active in family life, and I remember fasting when I was 7 years old, and it was a very sort of hot summer, and I fasted for the first time when I was 7 years old, and the fast remained 18 hours, and there were no coolers in the house and no refrigerators in the house, and the hot wind was like the fire of hell. But I was almost getting unconscious when it was 16 hours. And then my mother rushed and she hurriedly brought some water. But I refused the water. And I completed 18 hours. And by the end of the fast, I just sort of ate and drank. So yes, I had firm feeling in my own religion, and I still have. Although I am a worldly man, and I do not confine myself to the mosque all the time. I do go for prayers, and I go for Jummah prayer, especially if I miss other prayers.
For Jummah prayer?
Yeah, Jummah is a Muslim prayer on Friday.
Right.
And Muslims, like the Christian go on Sunday to the church, Muslims go to the mosque on Friday by midday, and they say prayers, and they meet each other. There's a big gathering, they meet each other, and they discuss their local problems and the other problems, etc. So I still go to Jummah prayers always.
So were your own children brought up in Islam? Were they quite active?
Yeah, especially my son Yusuf, who is doing PhD. He's very active in Islam, and what he does is he goes with the people to the other towns for weekends, etc. And they try to propagate Islam. They go and knock the doors of the people and things like that. But my other children, they don't miss Jummah prayers. They don't miss that. But otherwise, they are sort of not as fanatics, and nor am I a fanatic. So we're not fanatics, and but we feel that we should do more towards the prayers for our own personal satisfaction. But at the same time, we should encourage people to understand people of other religion, and the more they understand, the more tolerance comes in the lifestyle. and that's why it is. Otherwise, people keep thinking because somehow, somewhere they have read or somebody has told them that the people of other religion are not as good as them. So the thing is that when they do realize that other people have similarly good feelings, honesty, truthfulness, tolerance, fellow feeling, friendship, etc., etc., the more they know about them, the better society we create. And that was why I joined the executive of REC in 1981. And since then, about 19 years ago, I've always been working on the executive, and I was vice chairman for the last 6-7 years. But having said that, I always liked to go there to know the feelings of other people. At the same time, you'll be surprised to know that I do not drink at all. But I am the member of Afro-Caribbean Cultural Center, which is not far off REC. Mm-hmm. And I go there sometime and see how the people feel when they are drunk or when they are drinking. And I don't drink. I might go and drink, say, a glass of Coke or something. And
so did you give up at a certain point in your life, or have you never ever had alcohol?
I never ever had alcohol, no, never.
Is that the same with tobacco, smoking? Or?
The same as I do not smoke. I do not drink, I do not smoke. I drink a cup of tea every 2 hours, and that's it.
You talked about the REC, the Race Equality Council. What the type of work the REC is doing, how do you think that is important to a place like Wolverhampton?
I think it's very important for the reason that people of any color can go there to REC and say if they need your services or services of other people, they get it. So it's not a black organization basically. At least I don't understand it is. It's not a black organization, and the thing is that I feel that it's predominantly an Afro-Caribbean organization, and they are always have the feeling that the black people and Asian people need help, for the reason that they have been in, or their forefathers have been in more difficulty than our forefathers, for the reason that yes, the British occupied that area, you see, they occupied almost half of the world, but they did not use our forefathers as they did in the case of Afro-Caribbean people. So the thing is that feeling has still not died, you see, on the both sides. Because now the things have changed, but at one time the white people here felt that Afro-Caribbean people were inferior people, the Afro-Caribbean people were not mentally as fit as they should be, that they cannot do well in education, they cannot do well, and to some extent they felt that these people were also more inclined towards crime than the people of other areas and other countries. But you see, REC is trying to prove that that's not the case. That people, or even Jamaican people, have fellow feeling, and they want respect, and they are good, and if they can do very well in the sports, they can do very well in education, etc. So the thing is, I still like a phrase, a small sentence from Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King once said, he said, I want to be white man's brother, but white man prefers to make me his brother-in-law. So the thing is, what he was trying to say was that black people have the right to be treated equally as the white people treat each other. So the thing is that I am working in REC for the same reason, that I want to see that a just society, a fair society, and a good society comes out as a result, because light comes from the darkness, from the darkness. So that's my personal motto. Wherever I am, even in my own organization, which is MNY Asian Association, I have always felt that everybody needs help, and that was why we changed the name of United Muslim Welfare Association into MNY Asian Association, so that we can help more people than limited people or people of one religion.
What sort of changes do you think have happened in terms of race relations over the years?
Well, you see, you watch any television program, you will see that if you look with that sort of attention, you will see that they include always somebody from Afro-Caribbean background and somebody from Asian background. It always happens. And this Carlton News now, ITV News, they have one newsreader who is black, and this shows that efforts of people like me have reached that far, that they have realized that they should include us. Although there is still exclusion, we are not there, but at least we are on that line. So if not in my lifetime, in your lifetime, you will feel that people have accepted you, and the beginning of it has started. We are offered jobs, we are given training, education, etc. And we are encouraged. When there are exclusions from schools, they are always genuine and always obvious, and the parents are involved, and the governors are involved, especially black governors are involved, etc., etc. So the thing is that yes, we are on the right track.
So do you think discrimination still exists in some places? And
discrimination will always exist. What happens is that even the parents do not like all the children the same, and at the same time the children, each of them does like or not like the parent as much as the others are doing. So the discrimination cannot go. A black man will still be a black man, and an Asian man will still be an Asian man. You see, but what's happening is that it is on the course of change, and it's not as much as it was when we came here in 1960s. Then it was felt at that time. It was felt that as soon as they saw an Afro-Caribbean man, they thought that their street is not safe. They are criminals. Now that tendency has changed altogether. You see, that's what has happened. The police consults us, we speak to the police realize what the problems of the young people are. They are unemployed, they are disillusioned, they are in difficulty, they have got financial circumstances, they have got social problems, etc., etc. So all these things are working towards the betterment. But at the same time, things are better, but there is still discrimination. If you are white, you are likely to get a job more quickly than if you are an Asian or an Afro-Caribbean, you see. And similarly, the jobs of responsibility, if you consider, unless it's a showcase, the jobs of responsibility are not given.
Sorry, whose responsibility?
The jobs of responsible jobs.
Right.
Responsible job. And that old tendency has not changed. When a boy from Britain was a captain when he was 17, and a man from India was always a soldier, and in 99% cases the Indian soldier died and white captain lived, you see, and that tendency has still not changed. Ironically, what happens is when there are ground fighting, whether it was in Iraq or Kosovo or anywhere, when it's ground fighting, they send Gorkhas, and their general is white, but Gorkhas are not white. They are people from Nepal, they are people from India, you see. And what happens is they put them in the forefront so that if they die, Gorkhas will die. And they call it British regiments. But I mean, you see, they employ Gorkhas. They've got special corps of Gorkhas. And they keep them. I mean, you see, no matter where it is. If it's a ground fight, well, send Gorkhas. And that was the case when the Second World War was. Send Indians right in the front and keep the British in the back, so that if the Indians fail to do their job, the British will shoot them. So that's our tendency will continue. Big jobs, important jobs will still go to the white people. But there will be one stage, say in 50 years' time, 100 years' time, 80 years' time, when the things will be different.
So do you think to get to this good stage in the world, do you think we need to go through more bad? Do you think there needs to be more divisions before we get to the good, maybe?
Well, the divisions are, like I say, curtailing now. They are getting less and less and less, you see. They are not as fierce as they were, you know. Again, the same thing, awareness. Because at one time, the British took for granted that the colonies and that the countries where they rule, they are not entitled to good things, you see. But then they realized there that yes, they were entitled, and then carried on and on and on, and they still think we are not entitled of good things. But the thing is that still, at least they are accommodating us. So the things have changed for the better. They have changed for the better. But I mean, I cannot say that 100% will be achieved even after 18 years. But we have achieved 50% because there is goodwill on both sides. There is better understanding, better awareness. You people are working a lot there in our REC and other places. In the council you can see black faces. Now they've got chief executive who is black. So the thing is that the things are on our side. We are winning.
Does anyone remember where we were in terms of text? What we were talking about?
Yeah, the Race Equality Council. He was saying how things have changed. Discrimination. And he was saying that there's Derek Anderson, Derek Anderson, Chief Executive.
Wolverhampton Council.
He could elaborate on that, how he feels about that. Something that round it off. Wolverhampton Council would be a good talking point. Yeah.
So what do you think having a black chief executive at Wolverhampton Council does actually mean in real terms? I mean,
well, what happens is, my personal feeling is that he was given this job to show goodwill, you know, to show that that there was tolerance in the local authority. And at the same time, he's a very able man, he's a personal friend of mine. Yes, so it's both, but certainly they have shown the goodwill.